Hello, Stargazers! I am your magician, but you can call me Aster. And hello again! It's been a hot minute since I have been live or streamed at all, honestly. And, before we get into the game, I want to talk about that just a eensy, like, tiny bit. So, I went mute for a couple of days. Like about a week. I was very nervous that I was going to get laryngitis again, like I did last year, where I had to be mute for a whole month. That absolutely freaked me out. I was very scared that I would have to do that again. But it looks like because I limited my speaking and I didn't sing, I'm still not singing a whole bunch, like as much as I usually do. And my voice has made like a 75% recovery. On that note, because of that, this is a very long visual novel. This is 95,000 words, which is about the length of a Harry Potter book. And, so, I'm only gonna be reading the dialogue. I'm really sorry about that, but, it's both for time's sake and for my own vocal health. How is everybody? How has everybody in my absence? Vocal cord workout. Nah. A little. Music is a little loud. Sorry. Let me fix that. How's this? Harry Potter book is short. Okay, if you say so. Got a notification that it said vampire lesbians. What's going on exactly? I don't know. I don't think there's much that I need to explain. I'm not okay after the new alien stage. Oh, fun fact. I've got something in the works. That's all I'm gonna say. 10 big booms for vocal recovery! Hold on. Boom, 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 boom! I think that was 10. Did I count that properly? And these vampires were roommates? So this is another visual novel from Ebihime. Ebihime did It Gets So Lonely Here, The End of an Obsession, The Mermaid of Zener, and there was one other game, Shut-In Vampire, that I played from her. And she came out with this like 2 days ago, and she's been advertising it like hell. She actually worked with a publisher together to publish this visual novel. Most of the time she self-publishes. So, like, I'm really happy for her. Australian stage real? Yeah. 7 months? Wow. That can't be right. Sure it can. I've been a streamer for a hot minute now. We bring the boom for Aster doing well. That's so sweet. Live, love, lesbians! But, yes, I think I've said my piece. Is everybody excited for lesbians? One last thing. I actually ended up DMing Ebi, asking for some of the pronunciations of the character names, because there's like a decent amount of characters in this. But I think it should be... Alright. Have me in the Your Turn to Die fandom for a year. Has it actually been a year since we played Your Turn to Die? No way, right? Wait, now I'm curious. Hold on. We're derailing. No way it's actually been that long. No, it hasn't. It's only been since July. I was like, was that a year ago? I didn't think so. Me and my girlfriend 6-month dating. Heck yeah! Alright, let's go, lesbians! Alright, so like I said, I will only be reading like the dialogue. If it's like narration and nobody's saying anything, then I'm not gonna read it. If you need help, you can call me anytime. Thank you, Rose. Actually, it's been 5 years since you started Crazy. Hi, Jets! Welcome in. Alright. So they're British, so... Faster, Micah, faster! You have to keep moving or else... Oh god, they're gaining on us! Oh, they're being pursued. Aster's real accent. Yeah. The British? TGAA? No way. Henny. Germans. Oh, they're German? Oh. Micah, please! You need to hurry! Quickly, Micah! British cup of tea Tuesday in it. Y'all are so silly. This art style is so beautiful. Micah looks beautiful. Oh my god. Did we kill him? Eats the art style. Real. Did Micah kill her dad? That's crazy. Micah! Shadowy pursuer is beginning to close in. Oh, so these people probably killed her parents, and so they're like fleeing from them. Okay. Henny was a maid being targeted because of her connection. Oh. Henny! Please let go. Leave me be. I'm just slowing you down. I don't care. I'm not leaving you behind. But there aren't any buts. I told you I won't leave you. Now let's keep running. Welcome back! Glad to see you again. I'm glad to see you again too. Make myself louder or the game quieter? Eh? Is it still too loud? So I already put a limiter on it actually, but I'll increase it. Here we go. Alright, it should be a bit better now. Let me know if there's still audio issues. Sounds okay to me? For certain voices you were way too quiet. Oh, it's because I think I got too far away from the mic. I'll keep that in mind. It's been a hot minute since I started streaming. I'll put it on auto. Ah! God, they're getting closer. We need to keep running. Come on, Micah! 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 Oh god, Micah, get out! Please get out! And then everything went black. Act 1. Ara! The night that never ended. What? Dull, crushing pain. God, this looks so beautiful. Can you hear her? She's breathing. Micah had no idea where she was. There's not a whole lot of dialogue right now. Maybe once we get some more dialogue, maybe I'll start cutting out the descriptions and just leave the text. But here, I'll start reading here. Alright. Micah had no idea where she was. I'll read it for now. And if I get tired, I'll stop. The floor upon which she was sitting, why was she sitting on the floor of all things? Was made of stone, which felt hard and cold and uncompromising. The walls too were made of stone, as was the ceiling, which felt very far away. A wooden cot was pushed up close against one of the walls, but it was so steeped in shadows Micah could scarcely make it out. There was a chamber pot lying by the cot, which she did not care to examine too closely, but its rim and sides were stained with caked-on filth. Ugh. A truly unpleasant odor exuded from the chamber pot, which made Micah's eyes sting. Is it not clean? It was fortunate that she had no immediate desire to relieve herself, for she had no wish to use this commode. A quick examination of the room, though really it was more like a cell, showed Micah that, save for the cot and the chamber pot, it was utterly desolate. There was no other furniture to be seen, no shelves, nor cupboards, nor even a proper bed. There was no mirror either, so Micah could not see herself, but perhaps this was a blessing in disguise. Micah doubted she'd be at her best given she was in so much pain, and she was so very exhausted. She was so cold she could feel goosebumps rippling across her flesh, and her teeth were chattering badly. Micah wound her arms around her middle and shivered sadly. It's a chamber pot, what did you expect? I mean, yeah, but still, I don't know, I'd expect it to be kept clean, at least. It was not only the chamber pot that stunk, the very air itself was rank, heavy with the stench of unwashed bodies and general decay. This room, no, she was sure that this was a cell, reeked of death. How had she come to such a place? What had happened to her? Micah could remember sitting alongside her mother and her father in their carriage as it bore them through the forest, and then... There, at this most pivotal of moments, her memories failed her. Micah could recall nothing else. Had her parents been there, they would have given her instructions. They always seemed to know what Micah ought to be doing at any given time, but they were not there, and neither was Henny. Micah was all alone. Henny had been with her, Micah was certain, before. Before what? Why could she not remember anything? Ugh, Micah thought sorrowfully. If only she was made of stone. Then perhaps her head would not hurt so much. It really did feel that her skull might explode. Not from the pain, though the pain still remained, but from a raw, unbridled fear. Micah had often dreamed of stealing away from her parents' home to embark upon a brand new life, unfettered by expectations, but she'd never wished for this. Tears began to trickle down Micah's cheeks in crystalline droplets. They scored tracks in the dirt which caked her cheeks and dropped, one by one, to the floor. Her head bowed, fingers splayed against the stones. Micah sobbed and she sobbed until... What's going on? Oh, a soft voice spoke from among the teeming shadows. Micah could not see the speaker. She could scarcely see at all given the darkness and now her own tears, but she recognized its familiar cadences. The voice belonged to Henny. Micah's dear friend was here too, in this stone cell which smelt of death, And though Micah feared for Henny, she could feel relief bubbling up inside her. She was not alone after all. Henny! Micah crawled forth on her hands and knees, being too exhausted to stand, and stared into the shadows. Henny, is that you? Micah? Alright. Crescent Henrika? Hendika? I could always call her beloved maid Henny. Henny was rarely seen without a smile. Hmm. Oh. Henny's alive. I remember seeing Henny in the like question, is there really any other vampire type other than lesbians? Oh yes, certainly. There's gay male vampires too. Qin Yong. My god, Micah! Vampire expert, yes. You'd been her one staunch, steadfast companion. The only person Micah knew who took Micah for who she was rather than wishing, often allowed to her face that she could be more appreciative, more amenable, more effusive, more like a lady and less like herself. I think I'll let go on and off. I'm so sorry. I really just want to preserve my voice. Posterior resident vampirologist, exactly. And he didn't want Micah to be more. She only wanted Micah to be Micah. Did that mean, then, that Micah did not look like Micah in that moment? But who else did she resemble if not herself? What had happened to her? Don't you know that vampires coined the term alphabet mafia? Wait, what? I need more context there. Are you alright, Micah? Oh, look at your poor face! I'm actually not sure what exactly Henny should sound like. The way that she was speaking earlier makes me wonder if she's not quite as eloquent? Or not... her diction isn't as good, I wonder. Henny rose from the wooden cot which creaked and crouched before her friend. Reaching out, still shaking, she caught Micah's cheeks in her fingers and said, "You're bleeding!" I'll figure it out. I am? Yes, you've a nasty cut beneath your right eye and your cheek. It's all banged up. You're positively black and blue. Oh, I hadn't realized. I'm sorry, Henny. What? Why are you apologizing to me, you daft ghost? You've done nothing to feel sorry for. I don't know. I'm just sorry for making you worry, I suppose. Oh, think not of it. It's my job to worry about you. I'm your maid, remember? I think of... oh, now, okay. Is that the... that's Yorkshire, isn't it? Well, of course I remember that much. My thoughts might be in a state of disarray for the present, but I would never forget you. You are much more than my maid, Henny. You're my friend, too. My dearest friend. And I could very well say the same about you. That's why it hurts seeing you in such a frightful state. Do I look so very bad? Well, now... that depends on how honest you want me to be. Oh dear. Do I look as bad as all that? You've certainly looked better. Your face is banged up as a windfall apple. An apple? I only hope that the apple isn't riddled with worms. I don't think you've anything to worry about on that score, at least. Well, that is a relief. I suppose things could always be worse. Right you are, that's the spirit! You're still alive, and so am I, and we're together. That ought to count for something, although... I'm afraid that your parents mightn't have been so fortunate. What? What happened to them, Henny? Do you know what's going on? You don't? See you later, Jonathan. I recall that we were traveling to Augsburg to visit my fiancé, but as for how we came here... I'm afraid I cannot remember. Not a single thing? Nothing. See. That's not such a surprise, I suppose. You hit your head pretty hard back there. Might be for the best that you can't remember all the gory details. I wish I could forget about what happened myself, but... Henny? What happened? Tell me, please. I want to know. Yes, I thought you might. That does make things a mite complicated, though. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. Just, promise you won't take against me for what I'm about to tell you. I've gone through a lot tonight already, and that would be the straw to break the camel's back. Henny, please. You should know that is a trivial concern. I'm fully aware of that none of this is your fault. You've only ever sought to protect me. I have no better friend than you. Not in all the world. And it's precisely because I want to protect you that I don't want to go into all this. I know it'll upset you. Christ. It upsets me too. It's an upsetting situation all round. It's rotten, really, what people are capable of, but... Just... how much do you want to know? How much is there to know? Oh, I remember everything. I'll always remember tonight, I expect. Made quite the impression. Horrible things always do. Oh dear. Are things truly that dire? They're pretty bad, yes. Give me an abridged account then. I've no need to hear everything. Right you are. I'm sorry to tell you this, Micah, but during our travels, the carriage... well... it was attacked by bandits. What? No. Yes. They came creeping out from the fog like... I don't know, monsters from a children's story maybe, but much scarier. They waylaid the carriage, then stormed it. They drew out their daggers and threatened your father, and when he refused to comply, well... they stabbed him. What? Oh God. Not my papa. My poor papa. Don't tell me he didn't... I'm sorry, but... as you're probably suspecting. His wound was a deep one and he died. Dead. My papa dead! That is a doornail, I'm afraid. I didn't hang around to see what had happened but... it was all over so quickly, I didn't think he suffered, at least. And my mama, what of her? Tell me she also... And what of us, Henny? How did we escape? I find it hard to believe the bandits would just let us go. Oh, I'm sure we would have joined your parents if we sat still like good little girls, but I didn't want to do that. I took your hand while they were busy with your mother, and we ran away. We fled through the woods, but the bandits took chase pretty darn quick. It was very dark, and the fog was thick, and I could hardly see what was happening. At one point, you tripped and you fell. And you got that nasty cut on your poor forehead, and I was dragged down with you. We lay there on the ground in the dirt while the bandits tramped about looking for us. I figured we were both a couple of goners. I started to say my prayers to the Lord Almighty, but then... we survived. Yes, we survived. Damn, those classy European nobles and their awfully verbose internal monologue. My eyes are barely following them, let alone processing through my brain. Am I going too fast? I read quite quickly. I do lots of reading, so, like, my reading speed is pretty speedy. Like I think 400 words per minute? Is that lowballing it? I don't remember, but I did a reading test a while back, and it was something like that. Maybe it was a bit higher. Let me know if I need to slow down, though. The bandits had spared them, or somebody had come to their defense. Would have been wandering the woods so very late at night. Micah could hardly credit it. No, please proceed as you wish. Naruhodo? What does everybody else think? Do you know how we escaped, Henny? I know what my eyes saw, but if my eyes can be trusted or not, well... that's another matter altogether. I think I might have bumped my head myself, it was all so peculiar. At the time, it seemed like a miracle. But looking back on it, that ain't the right word. Miracles suggest God and all his angels, but there was naught holy about this. It was a right proper mess, really. A total bloodbath. Blood? Good as is? Alright, cool. Yes, there was blood, and lots of it. It's hard for me to explain, but... all I know is one moment we were sprawled upon the dirt, you unconscious, I half out my mind with fright as the bandits approached. And the next they were gone. Gone? But where and how? Did they run away? Not necessarily. Not of their own free will. The fog parted, you see, and then this figure, this woman, she appeared so quick it was like she'd sprung up from the earth. She wasn't very tall. I don't think she was, at least, and she was very skinny, but the way she looked, the way she moved, there was something unnatural about her. I didn't get a very good look at what happened next, but I saw her go after those bandits. I think there were at least 4 of them, but that woman soon took care of them. There was so much blood and a lot of mud. It stunk to high heaven, it did, but tears to my eyes. That woman, though, that woman in white, she didn't seem fussed at all. She stood there when she'd finished beneath the moon like nothing had happened. And then... I don't remember anything after that. I think I must have fainted. When I finally woke up, I found myself here. It was your crying that woke me up. Never been able to rest easy while you're in tears, Micah. Yes, I know. You've always been so good. And so kind. Thank you, Henny. Oh. I've no idea what I would do without you. It sounds like you saved me. From the bandits, I suppose I did. But I wasn't much use when you took that nasty spill. There's no way I would have been able to carry you to safety. Not when we were all turned about in the woods and I'd no idea where we were. I think I scraped my own shin too. My ankle aches. Turn on the stream and the first thing I hear is British yapping again. Damn! I have been playing a lot of British games recently. I played TGAA, which is all British Aster, and then this is also British.
Welcome in, Sheldon. We'd have been goners if that woman hadn't paid. But now that I'm talking about it, it doesn't sound real. I can't think of any woman who'd be able to beat 4 men in a test of strength. Not even your own Mademoiselle Blanchard. Micah was too old to believe in magic, but when she was with Henny, she sometimes wondered... Are you sure it was a woman who fended off those bandits? Perhaps it was some sort of animal instead, and you failed to perceive it in the fog. That could be it. Like I said, my mind's a mess. I feel like I've lost a good 10 years off my life, although...
That's better than having it cut short altogether. We must be thankful for small mercies, yes, even if our lives were saved at my parents' expense. Now then, where do you suppose we are? And how do you suppose we got here?
That's a good question. Been wondering that myself. Not the nicest of digs, is it?
Not particularly, no. It's awfully drab. And it's damp, too. I'm freezing.
Oh, you poor thing, you. Come here. Goodness me, it's not much to look at, is it? Might as well be in a prison cell.
I think that might be what this is.
I reckon you're right.
I wonder who brought us here.
You and me both. It was nice of our mysterious benefactor, or benefactress, to rescue us, though they can't be all that kind if they're gonna let us suffer in here. You'd think they could at least have put up in a nicer room. Not expecting first-class accommodations, but you deserve better than this, Micah. This place isn't fit for rats, let alone people.
It's... all right.
Are you being serious?
It's better than being dead, at least. Even if these lodgings are a mite uncomfortable.
Only a mite?
Well... quite a bit, if I'm being honest. When I woke up, I was lying on the floor.
On the floor?
That's cute.
I suppose it makes sense there being only one bed, but oh, that is too much. Can't believe they fling you about like a sack of spuds.
Many unbelievable things have happened tonight. A benefactor must have been bucking the trend.
Some benefactor? When I get my hands on them, I'll give them what for.
Don't, Henny. It wouldn't do to pick a fight with whomever brought us here. I wouldn't want to anger them, not when we're at their mercy.
Why, but that makes us sound like captives.
Is that not what we are? This is a cell, after all, and we have no means of escaping. We're being treated like prisoners.
I know, but it still stings. Don't care about me, but I don't want to see you being treated like a convict, not when you've been through so much.
You've been through worse. At least I don't remember what happened, unlike you.
And you're the one who'll be saddled with the consequences. Oh, poor Micah.
It was your parents, not mine, who were... well...
I don't expect there's much point in trying to suss out who's suffering more than who. As it stands, we're both in this together. I won't abandon you, Micah, so try not to worry. Keep your chin up. We'll get through this.
Thank you, Henny. I almost believe it coming from you.
You should. I don't say things I don't mean, you know. Now let's see. Maybe things aren't as dire as they look. Could be a way to escape yet.
Henny rose to her feet, though unsteadily, and did a circuit of the cell. The shadows made it seem larger than it was, for they obscured the walls, but it did not take Henny many steps to canvass the full length of the dingy room. She pressed her fingertips to the walls, then her ear, as though the stonework might whisper their weaknesses to her. But the walls, of course, remained mute. Henny then took the bars between her fingers and squeezed experimentally, but they refused to yield.
Oh, come on.
Frustrated, Henny gave the bars a kick. The tip of her shoe collided with them, loosing clods of dirt from her soles, but... Did the word sus just make you laugh? What could possibly be so funny about the word sus? I was just getting a character. I don't know about you.
Oh, no, Judge.
What's so funny about the word sus, huh?
Damn it all.
The bars refused to budge. They were quite impenetrable. Why do they always start the camera there? I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah, this is the second shot that we've had focusing there. I always figured British people pronounce it Seuss. Why? Sighing, Henny changed tack. She moved from the door to glance up at the window, but this was similarly barred. Too high up to reach and much too small to squeeze through. It almost seemed like a miracle that such a small window allowed any moonlight at all to spill into the cell when the clouds and the fog shifted. And? Did you uncover anything?
Not all, except that we're more trapped than I thought.
I thought you might have come to that conclusion, yes.
God. This is a rum situation. I wonder what we're to do.
I don't think there's much we can do other than wait.
Suppose you're right. Can't say I like the thought of that, though. We're sitting ducks here. Feel we ought to be taking some kind of action. But I'm drawing a blank here. Can't think of anything we could do. I'm sorry for being so hopeless, Micah. I meant to look after you, but I'm at a total loss.
Don't apologize, dear Henny. I feel better simply being with you.
That's something, at least. Wish I could be of some real use, though.
You are of real use. Without you, I'd be an unconscionable mess weeping on the floor.
Well, we can't be having that. It breaks my heart to see you cry.
Much as it breaks mine to see you self-flagellate so, over something that is not your fault.
Touché. Now that we're well and truly stuck here, suppose we ought to make the best of it, although...
a bad feeling about this place. Gives me the creeps.
I don't know who imprisoned us here or what cause, but they've got no manners to speak of. Why, it's almost as if... A sound.
A scream. Good God.
What in the world was that?
I suppose that was just the wind.
You really think so?
Yes, I imagine.
Human. With no obvious way of escape and very little to do, Mike and Henny had no choice but to idle their time away. They sat up on the floor together with their legs folded primly, like two little girls conducting a make-believe tea party. Henny had at first balked at the thought of her mistress sitting on the stone like a plebeian, but Micah's dress was already so dirty it didn't matter. The two women did not, however, abandon themselves to inertia. Henny knew they had to do something to take their minds off of their ghastly predicament. Fortunately, Henny was not empty-handed. She had in her pocket, alongside the kerchief she'd used to wipe Micah's cheek, a pack of cards. These cards were worn and bent at the corners, but they remained perfectly functional. For want of a better way to use their time, Henny proposed to Micah a game of Joker, a game which Micah agreed to. The two women played several rounds of Joker, examining their decks and dispensing of cards. The game did not require a great degree of tactical thinking, but it helped alleviate some of Micah's worries. It could not, alas, alleviate the cold, but Micah had been shivering for so long she'd almost grown accustomed to it. She'd been in the dank, miserable cell for so long she could scarcely remember how it even felt to be warm. Had her journey to Augsburg continued unimpeded, she'd now be sitting by the fire in Walter Gerhardt's living room, or else tucked up in one of his many guest bedrooms with a warming pan at her feet. Both Augsburg and Walter Gerhardt seemed very far away to Micah now, though being confined thus in a prison cell. How long had she been singing with Henny on the floor, shivering? Micah didn't know. She couldn't tell. All Micah really knew, in her infinite ignorance, was that the night seemed hopelessly long, she hopelessly small and insignificant. There was no clock in Micah's cell, and neither she nor Henny carried timepieces among them. The only means Micah had of tracking the advancement of the hour was the sliver of sky she could see beyond the narrow window situated high above her head. She could recall that the sky had been dark upon her waking, and it remained so now, 3 games of Joker later. The moon, which emerged from the fog at irregular intervals, shone its pallid light upon Micah's head and upon her hand of cards, lighting her Joker and his wide, rictus grin. Micah had never cared for the Joker in Henny's trusty pack of cards. His expression unnerved her. Every once in a while she played, Micah spared a few glances at the barred window above her head. Though she could not guess the hour, she knew it was late. It could have been an advanced hour of the night, or it could have been, by the same token, the very, very early hours of the following morning. The calendar might have shifted already, from one day to the next, but Micah was none the wiser. The sky was so dark, Micah found it hard to believe the sun would ever rise again. The darkness which abounded within her cell was so complete, it seemed to have blotted out the very concept of the morning altogether. She feared she'd never again see the sun's golden rays, never again hear the twittering of the starlings in the trees which announced a brand new day. When did the birds begin to chirp beyond her bedroom window anyway? Micah couldn't recall, but she thought it must have been around 6 in the morning. Micah had gone to bed at 10 every night, like a dutiful daughter ought, but she'd often found it hard to sleep for a full, unbroken 8 hours. She'd arise at odd hours, at 1 or 2 or 3, her head full of thoughts, and often she found it hard to sleep again. When this occurred, Micah would rise from bed to sit by her windowsill, her forehead in the summer pressed to the glass. That always helped cool her, and her errant thoughts alongside it. Ah, how her mind raced!
This is ridiculous! We ought to be at our Gerhardt's right now, safe as houses! We weren't so very far from Augsburg, at least I don't think we were, when we were attacked. Why'd those bandits have to go after us?
We were just unfortunate, I suppose. I can't imagine the bandits meant specifically to target us. We just happened to be there.
You're probably right, but... oh, goodness. Of all the awful luck!
At least you've had a fair run during our game. You've beaten me out soundly during every single hand.
Well, true. Suppose I should thank Evan for small mercies, eh?
It's a shame I don't feel more thankful.
I wonder what Gerhardt would make of this. He'd be off his head, I'm sure, if he knew the state you're being kept in, Micah. I'm enraged too, for you and him. You deserve far better than this. You're a Von Essen, for crying out loud. The person who's holding us here will feel mighty sorry when they realize who you are. You're a real lady.
Maybe. Micah's reply was vague in both tone and meaning. Not even Micah herself was sure whether she meant to disparage Henny's optimistic assertions that her being a lady would grant her any favor with her captor, or whether she meant to challenge the notion she was a lady at all. Micah had been born to a noble family, it was true, with a lineage which could be traced back centuries, but the Von Essens were not what they had been. Half a century of poor financial decisions and a grandfather with a compulsive gambling addiction had led to the squandering of much of the Von Essens' wealth. While still in possession of their family home and a veritable fleet of maidservants, the family's finances had been in a dire state ever since Micah could remember. Though not openly wanting for cash, Micah's parents had made a good many purchases based on their family's prestige, rather than the figures in their bank account. Micah's wedding to Herr Gerhardt had been an attempt to shore up the family's wealth before they could fall from grace altogether, but now that seemed an impossibility. How can Micah wed Walter when she was incarcerated? If Micah had loved Walter, surely she would have shed tears over so cruel a fate. As it was, however, She was curiously calm. Why did she care how Walter Gerhardt felt? She barely knew him. Well, not to worry. Herr Gerhardt must be sitting in his drawing room now wondering where the blazes we are. Herr Gerhardt is sure to send out a search party before long. I'll be worried sick about you, my girl. Do you really think so? Absolutely. I mean, he's your fiancé. He's got to be worried. You're such a sweet thing. I don't see how you couldn't. Thank you, Henny. I appreciate it. Don't thank me, Micah. I'm just stating the facts. If I was a man and I had a fiancé like you can bet I wouldn't let you out of my sight.
I have very normal and straight things to say.
Perhaps it's a good thing that I'm in here with you then. You at least know I'm alright.
Yes, you are. And I thank heaven on high for it. You do know I'd do anything to keep you safe, Micah.
I know.
Yes, it isn't. Hello? Yeah, like, what? I wonder if Henny also likes,
Micah.
When it came to Henny's claims about Walter, however, Micah was less certain. What did she know about Walter, really, other than his age and his occupation, and how fabulously, excessively wealthy he was? Micah had met Walter on only 3 past occasions, and they'd exchanged almost as many words. The man was a stranger to her, and Micah's desire to marry him was inversely proportional with her parents' desire to see her walking down the aisle. Micah had been dreading her visit to Augsburg for well over a month. Now that it had been terminated, she felt a perverse sort of relief. Part of Micah had even begun to wonder whether the bandit's attack had brought with it some good alongside all the bad. But that, Micah chastised herself, was hopelessly cruel. Were her parents' lives truly worth that little to her? It was true enough that she may never see Walter Gerhardt again, but she'd never see her mother or father again either. It was not a fair trade, not by any stretch of the imagination. How could she ever have thought of such a thing? She really must have been wicked. Was that why she'd found herself in such a dire situation? Perhaps this was God's way of punishing her for being a poor daughter, and a sinner who spent too much of her time lost in daydreams, imagining things which could never and would never be. Micah and Henny sat in their cell for what could have been minutes or hours or even days, whiling away the time. My God, there was so much time, with continued, unending, incessant games of Joker. Micah's heart was not in the game, her head being otherwise occupied, and Henny trounced her soundly 12-1. Henny was better at Micah at card games in general, so this came as little surprise. Micah was accustomed to losing and accepted her failures with good grace. There were more important things in life than card games. And in any event, Micah was glad to be rid of the eerily grinning jokers in her deck. Little of note happened during these dead, empty hours. Micah had begun to wonder in a detached way, as Henny launched into their 14th round of Joker, whether they'd ever meet their rescuer. Perhaps whoever had hauled them from the forest had done so not as an act of kindness, but as a means of prolonging their suffering. Maybe they meant to keep them locked in this cell alone, until time itself slowed to a trickle, then ceased, the squalid stone walls tumbling down about them to crush their emaciated corpses in the debris. But soon, or shockingly soon, or so it seemed despite all of the interminable waiting, Micah found her hypothesis proved wrong. She could hear, above the sound of Henny shuffling the deck, a sound. Footsteps. The footsteps were quiet enough at first that Micah wondered whether she'd imagined them, but as the second elapsed they became louder still until even Henny heard them. Goodness me!
Can you hear that, Micah?
Yes, I can. Somebody must be coming.
A rescuer from the woods, do you think?
They could be our rescuer, yes, but maybe...
This is a turn for the better. I was beginning to worry they'd forgotten all about us. I can't wait to come face to face with them. I'll be sure to tell them exactly what I think about their so-called hospitality.
You've said that once before, Henny, and I wish you wouldn't. I don't want to anger them.
Oh, stuff and nonsense. I'm sure it'll be fine. They wanted to harm us. They had plenty of chances to do it already, surely.
That is true, but... The footsteps drew closer still, echoing about the stone walls, echoing inside Micah's skull. The footsteps could represent only two things. They would mean salvation if they were lucky, but Micah found it difficult to believe this. Neither she nor Henny had been very lucky that night, despite Henny's continued winning hands in Joker. It seemed far more likely that these footsteps would bring about yet more suffering. And sure enough... Well, well, would you look at what the cat dragged in? The voice that cut through Micah's musings was a proud, haughty one. Oof, I didn't get that right at all. The syllables polished to perfection like cut glass. The voice belonged quite obviously to a woman, and given her pronunciation, she must have been well bred. Perhaps their rescuer was a lady, then. A Vaughn such and such like Micah, from a family whose ancestral home was vast and old and grand enough to have its very own dungeon. Whereas most nobility used their subterranean storage spaces for wine cellars, this family seemed to prefer taking prisoners. The thought did not fill Micah with much confidence about her mysterious rescuer. Anxiously, she glanced up to meet the source of said voice, and when she did... Oh, Micah could not help but gasp in surprise.
Woohoo! Oh my god. I know she was on the title screen, but like, Jesus, she looks really good here.
The owner of the voice, who now stood upon the opposite side of the cell's door, was not at all what Micah had imagined. She was shorter than Micah had expected, shorter than Micah herself, who was dwarfed by her wealthier, significantly older fiancé, and slender with it, her cheekbones high, her neck not dissimilar to the stem of a flower. Her skin was frighteningly pale, like that of a corpse, and beneath her eyes Micah could see dark rings, similar to those she often sported during the long nights at her bedroom window unable to sleep. The woman, was she a girl? Had hair so fair was almost white, which almost seemed to glow in the moonlight. Her hair was not worn in a chignon, but instead was loose. It tumbled about her shoulders in waves, all disarrayed, in a manner which would have made Micah's mother swoon from the sheer impropriety of it all. The girl's appearance, but was she a girl, was striking, not only because of her indeterminable age, but because of her eyes, which were widely spaced and fringed with the most luxurious of lashes. Her irises were not brown like Henny's, nor blue like Micah's. They were not green, nor hazel, nor gray, nor any of the other shades Micah had seen in the faces of her family servants, and the attendants at the boutiques to which her mother took her, and the congregation at her local parish. Her irises were instead bright red, so much so they bordered on the visceral.
Hello.
These lovely irises were even redder than the blood which had seeped from Micah's sliced cheek, and seemed to be full of violence. The girl was a perfect stranger to Micah, but her eyes told more than pleasant chit-chat ever could. She was not normal. Micah knew instinctively as she gazed upon her that she should keep her distance, if she could. But this only made her conversely feel even more enchanted. She could not look away from her. It was as though her captor had placed her under a spell. That woman! Henny shifted back, her skirts shifting amongst the ground.
She's the one I told you about, Micah. The one from the woods. She's the one who fought off those bandits. Thought what I saw was unbelievable, but now I know it wasn't a dream. She really is real. She killed all those men. She's a monster.
Oh, a monster, am I?
You cut me to the quick, you humans do. At least, you would, were I not so accustomed to it. Perhaps I bring it upon myself, given the unusual manner in which I treat my guests, but you could at least try to be polite. Why, if it were not for me, the both of you would be lying in the woods right now, mangled beyond all recognition.
So you really were the one who saved us. I thought as much. Yours isn't a face anybody could forget in a hurry.
Why, thank you. I will take that as a compliment. I am very striking, I know.
Why'd you save us, though? And how? Can't believe you brought us back here, wherever here is, on your own. You must have had help.
Oh, if only. But alas, I've not had any help for... well, let's see. It must have been a century at least.
Century? But that would make you older than my grandmother. That can't be right. You don't look a day over 18.
Oh, do you really think so? You're too kind.
Maybe I should switch. So I was imagining the vampire having a lower voice and Micah having a higher one, but I might switch that.
This is more description than the author of Twilight gave her sparkly vampires. Oh, you know a real vampire lover when you see one.
AKA Ebi.
Oh my god, she's tiny! She's in the cell with us.
There. That ought to do it. It would be horribly tedious if you tried to run from me. I would be able to catch you, of course, but I'd rather not bother with all of the fuss.
No, why are you looking at me like that? You're making me feel quite unwelcome.
I thought you'd be relieved to see my face after being left to languish in the catacombs of my castle for hours on end, but maybe I was hoping for too much. In any case, you shouldn't frown like that, dear. It's an awful waste. You'll wrinkle your pretty face. She had heard it many times from her mother. While Mike had been trained to obey her mother without question, however, it was not so with this strange woman. Some of her reticence fell away, and needled, Micah said,
"What I do with my face is my own concern. I'm sure it's none of your business."
My goodness! You're feistier than you look. I took you for a shrinking violet, but maybe I was mistaken. You might make for quite the amusing plaything, though you'd be a good sight prettier if you smiled. I can't say I blame you for being so surly, though. I never liked smiling on command either, though it's been many, many years since anybody last tried to give me orders. It's fortunate nobody can tell me what to do now, at least. It came at quite the price, but... oh well, never mind. Where are my manners? My name is Magdalena, but you may call me Lena. My family's name, meanwhile, is of no particular importance. They might have commanded some respect back in the day, but it is not so now. They have long since been obliterated. I doubt history will remember them. It would not wish to. I am all that is left of their legacy. A fact I would very much love to rub in their faces, but alas, I never got the chance. It is very nice to meet you for the second time this night.
Ugh. Vampire Polly, Vampire Polly, Vampire Polly.
But I am afraid I will not be afforded much of a chance to properly know you. While I would relish a chance to speak to a couple of young maidens such as yourselves, I have designs for you beyond idle chatter.
And what do you mean by that exactly?
Only that, now I have brought you here, I cannot continue to let you live. You have already seen too much. What do you mean? What I say, do try to keep up. It's awfully tedious having to explain myself down to the finer details. But, I suppose you have the right to know the bare minimum, prisoners though you may be. I would hate to keep you in suspense. And at this point, it doesn't matter how much you know. You won't be able to tell anybody else what you might learn here. You'll not be venturing forth beyond the walls of my castle ever again. Waha! Magdalena smiled, her lips lifting in a wicked grin not so very unlike that of the Joker in Henny's pack of cards. Though Magdalena's face was white, her lips were red, much like her eyes. They stood out in her milky face, like a rose blooming despite the winter's chill. Or else,
Micah thought with a shudder. Freshly spilt blood.
You must understand that I am not a normal woman.
No human can hope to best me when it comes to a competition of sheer strength, as the bandits who were pursuing you soon discovered. It didn't take me more than a few seconds to dispatch them. The fight they put up was so pathetic it makes me wonder why they even bothered. If they'd any respect for my time, they would have slit their own throats with their daggers and saved me the trouble. You humans can be awfully thoughtless. But, if they had done that, I wouldn't have been able to bring the leader of their little group back to my castle. He was in a bad way, and I was obliged to introduce myself to him before bestowing upon you similar honors. I really must apologize for making you wait. The bandit's leader. Did you kill him?
Eventually, yes. It was quite the sight. You ought to have seen the way he begged and pleaded and groveled at my feet. A grown man like that who was practically made of muscle. Oh, how fickle fortune is! Just 1 hour hence he was the predator, stalking his prey through the woods, and the next... Well, what goes around comes around. He got what he deserved. And his screams really were exquisite. Did you, perchance, happen to hear them? He was being rather loud. Oh, goodness! Surprised, are you? You shouldn't be.
That man was a bandit. A vulture in man's flesh who profited on misery. If it weren't for me, you would have gone the same way as the poor unfortunates in that stored carriage. The driver and the horses, too. Nobody was spared their ravages, man nor beast. They made quite the grisly mess. Were I a century younger, it would have been enough to turn even my stomach.
Maybe that is so, but to gloat over another death like that... It doesn't seem right. You're twisted.
If I am twisted, that is only because this world... Well, never mind that. I do not wish to spout cliches about good and evil. I would begin to bore myself. The fact of the matter is, that man got what he deserved, as did his compatriots. I took great pains to ensure that. I paid that brigand back twofold for what he did to you. Did you know that he tried to be stoic in the beginning? Humans often are. Human males in particular, they've so much pride. It's funny, really, that a cur like that would care so very much about appearances. He was less a man than he was a dog, but he still had pretensions of greatness, or of grandeur. I soon stripped him of these lofty delusions, however. Humans are very alike in one regard, at least. You all scream the same after your bones have been broken, and you all bleed red. That man was a brigand, I'll give you that, who deserved the hangman's noose, but that's for a court of law to decide, not you. You did as a justice, it's barbaric. You shouldn't be taking pleasure in other people's deaths. What gave you the right to kill him anyway? I had every right to kill him. He was trespassing upon my land, as were you and the young lady here. Ugh. I'm not used to doing voices in British accents. It's kind of throwing me off. Am I about to turn them back American? I might. His life was forfeit the moment he encroached upon my territory. I could do like the fake British accent.
Hey, welcome in, Ziva.
The Lord's Prayer may say that we ought to forgive those who wrong us, but I've no patience with such teachings. They do not apply to me.
The Lord has forsaken me.
I am no longer a member of his congregation. He would have no love for me as I am now, and I have little love for him. I cannot conceive how he would have let me suffer so if he truly existed. Sometimes I do wonder...
So you mean to add blasphemy to your list of crimes?
Oh, I've done far, far worse than that in my time. The morals of you good sententious... I've never seen that word before. Churchgoers do not apply to me. I am not of your kind.
I'm a drinker of blood who walks the night.
You should try a Scottish accent.
No, I don't know a Scottish accent. I've been alive for over a century, though my life is very different to yours and your mistress's. I doubt that you could understand me,
And neither do I want you to.
I've no desire to understand you either.
There would be no point. I think I'm getting a bit tired.
We're much too different. Let me finish this scene and then I'll think about what I want to do.
Drinker of blood.
But that will make you a vampire?
Oh, that's Micah. A vampire. May as well go full ancient Gaelic. I have no idea how to do that.
Adventure stories.
And murder. Oh, she's just like me.
Micah knew from her reading that vampires were nocturnal creatures, often aristocratic, who shunned the sunlight, dwelt in ruinous castles, and supped upon the lifeblood of fair maidens. Yes, Micah thought, in an oddly detached manner, that did make sense. She'd sensed there was something strange about Magdalena when their eyes had first met. Magdalena really must have been a vampire. It all made sense. At least it would have, had Micah been a heroine in one of her novels. But life, Micah reminded herself, was not akin to a story. Micah might have consumed books like a starving man, but she had sense enough to know that the words written within the pages of adventure stories were all schemes of fiction. Vampires ought to have remained within the realms of make-believe. They had no business walking about as humans did, made of cold, unfeeling flesh with hearts which no longer beat. They were supposed to be constructs, mere figments of fancy.
You're doing great with the voices. Thank you. I might stop them though.
I might, change them again. But Magdalena was undoubtedly real, and unsettling though she was, Micah did not take her for a liar. Yes, that is correct. I am a vampire, and this castle is my territory. It and the woods that surround you. You wandered into my domain, you hopeless little lambs, while on the run from those awful bandits. I know none of this is your fault, and I've no quibbles with you. I am not blaming you for what occurred tonight. There. See how fair I am? I'm too nice by half. Too nice for my own good cause. You've been awfully surly with me, the both of you, but I've only ever been polite. I would even let you go if I could. Dispatching of brigands is one thing, but I take no pleasure in harming young ladies. But I fear that would be foolhardy. I cannot allow anybody who has wandered into my realm to leave alive. I do not want you telling tall tales. I should snap both of your necks and be done with it, but... You don't seem to be a mere peasant. I can tell from your clothes, dirty though they are, that you are from a wealthy background. Your voice and your bearing. Yes, even the way you look at me. It all suggests that you are, in fact, a lady. Would I be correct in that assessment? Why do you ask? It would be problematic for me if I were to dispatch a woman of renown. I would not want your disappearance to catch the attention of men in high places. If they were to send out a search party into these woods, it's not wholly impossible that they would stumble upon my home. I've lived out of sight for the public eye for nigh on a century, and I've no desire to invite half of Volksburg's constabulary into my home.
The vocabulary?
The idea is incredibly unpleasant.
Pulled a face as a small child might when confronted with a plate of food they did not much care for. They're kind of going for this ageless thing, and I feel like for me, ageless means higher in vocal tone.
If you really are a lady, I might do well to exercise some caution. I suppose I can always spare your life and kill only this dowdy common girl. Your maid, I take it? What do you say to that? It's not a bad trade, is it? Her life for yours. Precious few people who find themselves in my abode are
ever able to live to tell the tale. We'll be one in... Oof, goodness. How many guests have I had over the years? There must be a good 200 or 300. Hello, Caxer. Shadow Staller. Ah! Shadow! Welcome back! Aren't you touched by my thoughtfulness?
No way, right?
Well, if my life's all you're after, what else is there to think about? Sounds like a fine suggestion to me. Don't you agree, Mike?
What? Surely you don't mean that. You're not alright with this, are you, Henny?
Well, it'd be a lie if I said I was jumping up and down for joy at the prospect of being eaten by a vampire. But if that's what I gotta do to save your life, Micah, then I'll do it. I do love you after all. I'm not going to let you get hurt.
No. I won't allow that to happen. It wouldn't be right. If one of us must remain here, then it ought to be me.
What? No! You can't mean that, Micah. Surely you jest!
No, I'm not. You know I have a terrible sense of humor, Henny. I hardly ever tell jokes. I don't have enough levity in me for them. I'm being very serious. You've always looked out for me ever since I was small. Not that I always listened to you. Don't you remember when I stole the keys to the mausoleum and my insufferable curiosity and crept inside?
But of course I remember. You dragged me in after you, despite my warnings, and it went about as badly as expected too.
Didn't it just?
Oh.
Lady Von Essen was in such an awful mood when she found out. It was quite frightening. Never seen anything like it. Oh yes, she was fearfully cross. It's a wonder fire didn't come out of her nostrils.
I recall that she struck you. And then when I tried to argue on your behalf, she struck me too.
She struck me so hard, my ears still ring from it sometimes. God, yes, poor Hen. I felt awful about it at the time, really, I did. I didn't care about my punishment. God knows I deserved it, but you'd done nothing wrong. You'd been perfectly reasonable about the whole thing. If I'd listened to you, we could have avoided the furor altogether, but I was too reckless. I ignored your wishes, but you still tried to protect me. You jumped to my defense just like a knight, and you were slapped silly for your troubles. It was horribly unfair. I've dragged you into all sorts of messes before, and you've always come to my defense. You've been a wonderful friend to me throughout the years, but I can't keep relying upon you. I don't want to take advantage of your kindness.
But Micah, I like it when you rely on me. Please feel free to take advantage. That's what I'm here for.
No, I can't. It isn't right. It's long past time that I repaid you.
By offering yourself up as a sacrifice in my stead. That isn't what I want. Micah, please! I love you, but you're acting like a crazy woman.
And you are the pinnacle of rationality, are you, considering this crazy deal? That is truly insane. Don't tell me you've accepted all this.
Of course I've not accepted it. I'm terrified, really. See how my poor hands are shaking, but one of us biting it has to be better than both of us. If I can protect you, then I must. I will. That's my job.
No, it isn't. Not any longer. I'm absolving you of your duty, Henny. This farce has lasted long enough.
What farce?
You know what I mean. Magdalena.
Yes?
Have you quite finished with your little quarrel? I must confess, I was beginning to feel rather left out.
My apologies. I will endeavor not to be so rude in the future to my hostess. I fear you are laboring under a misapprehension, Lady Magdalena. Your reasoning is sound. There would indeed be a ruckus if a noblewoman was to go missing, but your application is not. I am not a lady, you see, but my companion is.
Oh? Hen, you mean to say you are the maid, and this lumpen Henny here is the mistress?
That is correct, yes. I know I am dressed as a lady, albeit a disgraced one, but that was part of Lord and Lady von Essen's ruse. While traveling, they often have me dressed as a lady, while Henny, that is to say, Henrika, dresses as a maid. It is a means of subterfuge so that, if our carriage were to be attacked by bandits, I am the one who would be in harm's way, rather than my mistress. Only a truly desperate bandit would rummage through the pockets of a maid, especially when she is with her lady.
What? Micah, that's...
Lady Henrika is the one who will be missed in Augsburg, not I. She has a fiancé waiting for her, you know, and he is a very important man. If she doesn't arrive before the dawning of the next day, you will be certain to send out a search party for her. You would not want that, would you?
Oh, very well. If that is how it is, then I suppose I have no choice. You may leave my abode,
Lady Henrika. If that is indeed your real name, I will grant you the chance to reunite with your fiancé in Augsburg, who must be awaiting you with no shortage of anticipation. Who wouldn't, after all, wish to dote upon a maiden as fair and fine as yourself? Your surprisingly well-spoken maid, however, will be bidden to remain by my side. Do we have a deal? Yes, I would do anything to ensure Lady Henrika's safety.
Oh, most assuredly. You would not consent to acting as a decoy on her behalf if you didn't care. What a wonderful friendship you women have. It is quite special, really, particularly given the disparity in your social status.
Now come along, Lady Henrika. It was very lovely to make your acquaintance, but now I fear I must cut our meeting short. Let me escort you to the front door. It is the least I can do for a woman of your lofty status.
What? Micah, no! Micah, please! Stop this! Tell her the truth!
I'm sorry, Hen, but...
Oh.
This is how it has to be.
Says who? I was willing to go along with this woman's plan, but you scuppered it up! I don't understand you at all, Micah! Why would you tell such a tissue of lies for a little old me? Magdalena, please! Surely you can't believe my mistress. It's obvious she's lying. There's no way she isn't a lady, not with a proper fancy way of talking. She's far, far more genteel than I could ever dream of being.
Her manners are certainly more polished than your own, yes, but perhaps this comes from years of servitude. You could stand to learn a thing or two from your maid, Lady Henrika.
Your fiancé won't think much of you as you are now, I'm afraid. Why, you're speaking almost like a fishwife. Now, come along. Let us not argue. You will give me a headache. But, Micah, I can't leave her. Let me go.
Henny's cries echoed throughout the cell, more unbearable than those of the bandit's leader during his final moments. Magdalena had not made Henny bleed, at least, but she was gripping her wrist so tightly, Micah feared she might snap it. Henny, who was short and dumpy, could put up little in the way of a fight. The poor maid was quite helpless before her. There was nothing which could be done, not any longer. Henny would have to leave, while Micah would remain incarcerated in this dreary cell alone. This was what Micah had wanted, when she'd spun her frankly untenable story. So why then did she feel so guilty? I love the voice acting, quite different from the voices of my head. Aw, thank you. Let go of me! Let go, I say! Micah, please! And Micah was left upon the ground, pale-faced, trembling, and all alone.
What?
Whoa.
Wow.
Oh my god. This looks like it's right up my alley and I'm so excited.
So, I'll probably go for another, like, hour and a half and then I'll call it a day. I might also, stop the British voices, unfortunately. I'm feeling a bit tired and I feel like my range isn't quite as expanded there. So, I might go back to, yeah, silly American, which is what I'm used to doing when I voice act. Silently watching. I love lesbians. Personally, I like it. The British? I mean, I also prefer it, but also I'm getting a bit tired. My mind is like on overdrive. Especially doing Henny's Yorkshire. Reverting to strong Texan accent. Yeah. Great opening. Yeah. Looks very pretty. Trying to do Canadian accent. Yeah, real. It's okay. It'll still be ASMR and soft and sleep material. Teehee. The time passed at an agonizingly slow pace as Micah sat on the stone floor of her cell with her legs demurely crossed, not beating the gold teeth allegations. What, as a Brit? Yeah, my teeth are yellow because of all the tea that I drank. Without Henny to cheer her, the air felt colder than it had before, the shadows darker. Magdalena had taken Henny from the cell so abruptly, she hadn't been afforded the chance to collect her scattered playing cards. Now, these cards were strewn upon the floor. Red diamonds, red as Magdalena's eyes, and coal-black clubs. Micah caught the eyes of a nearby joker, his lips pulled into an unsettling smile, ensured. She knew she was being paranoid, but she felt almost as if the card was mocking her. Micah reached out, fingers trembling to grab the card, then flipped it over. She didn't want to look at the Joker's grinning face. She didn't want to think either about what Henny was doing or how she was feeling, and she certainly did not want to think of her own future. It would be easy to drive such musings from her mind, and yet... Though Micah tried to keep her thoughts placid, like the smooth surface of an untroubled lake, sinister queries, sharp-toothed like eels, writhed just beneath the surface. What would happen when Magdalena returned? Did Did she mean to kill Micah quickly? Or would she make her suffer first? Magdalena had seemed to derive great pleasure from her torture of the bandit's leader, but she had said she did not care to harm young ladies. Had she meant it? Micah could only hope, if Magdalena did mean to kill her, she would do so quickly. She'd suffered enough for one night. No, for one lifetime. Micah, despite her heroism, did not want to die. The thought terrified her. And she imagined how Magdalena might kill her. A blade to the throat, perhaps. Poison, drowning, strangulation? Her skin, which was now icy cold, rippled with goose flesh. She did not want to be stabbed or poisoned or drowned or choked. She wanted to live. Micah had read stories of knights and their exploits, but she was no chivalrous sir herself. She was a young woman, though not as her mother might have reminded her so very young anymore, and she had little experience of the world beyond her parents' home. From an early age, Micah had been taught to hold her tongue, to hold her thoughts, be sweet and pretty and patient, and above all else, pliant. She was not supposed to think for herself, let alone stand up for herself. It wasn't appropriate conduct for a lady. Micah had endured 25 years as such, living only to please her parents, and her parents' esteemed visitors, and later her parents' chosen fiancé, but it hadn't felt like living. The only times Milka felt herself were those when she played cards with Henny, or read her books, or sat up by her window at night and stared out into the garden. Micah was 25, almost 26, but she knew nothing of the world. She knew nothing of freedom. She'd never truly lived. How then was she supposed to die? She couldn't pass on, surely, until she'd at least been afforded the chance to visit some of the places she'd read about in her stories. Such dreams that all had been all which had kept Micah going throughout her dreary days kept indoors. Getting off that I'd stop by for a couple minutes since I got some free time. Gotta do an essay about the history of fragrances. That sounds really interesting. Have a good day. Lots of odd. And good luck on your essay. She had persevered, not for the sake of her present, which she had lamented, but the hopes of a better future which waited beyond the horizon. Now, Micah feared she'd never be able to reach that future. Her life was to be curtailed before it could truly begin. She'd never see any of the world now. Paris and Venice and Rome would remain a mystery to her, exotic settings for stories and nothing more. She'd been born trapped, and now she'd die. The only difference was it was no longer her parents entrapping her, but a monster. Had her 25 years thus far been a story, Micah thought bitterly, it would have been a hopelessly dull one full of endless waiting but precious little doing. Waiting to live. Waiting to die. Is there any difference between these two states, really, when all was said and done? There's no point crying about it. Micah muttered this under her breath in the dark for her own peace of mind. There's no guarantee I would have been allowed to live even if Magdalena did set me free. I would have to return to her Gerdhart, and we'd wed, and then I'd spend the rest of my days trapped in his house. I'd go from being a cloistered daughter to a cossetted wife. Is that any better, really? In Micah's eyes, it would have been nothing but another form of imprisonment. Walter had the money to travel anywhere, but whether he'd be willing to expend these funds on little jaunts for his housebound, bored wife was doubtful. Perhaps it was better this way. Micah had no life, she knew, waiting for her beyond the walls of Magdalena's castle. She'd never been allowed to live as she'd wanted. That being the case, she might as well die. She had nothing left to lose. The minutes passed by, each more intolerable than the last, until Micah was alerted by the sound of footsteps. The iron door which partitioned the cell from the hall opened with a scraping squeal, and once more, Magdalena entered Micah's cell. Though Magdalena had left with an unwilling Henny in tone, she was now alone. Henny had gone. Well, well, aren't you a sight for sore eyes? How fare you, my dear captive? I do apologize for the wait.
Oh, never mind about me. What about Henny? Did you set her free?
Goodness me, your loyalty towards your lady is most profound. I was certain you'd be inquiring as to your own fate, but no. You seem only to care for her. You really ought to worry about yourself more given the circumstances. But I shall endeavor to allay your worries. I did indeed set your mistress free. I escorted her to the entrance of my home, then bid her on her merry way. Why do you ask? Do you not trust me?
You've done little to deserve it, given the way you've treated Henny and I, but oh, I'm so glad to hear it. I only hope that Henny will be alright on her own.
That remains to be seen. I might have set her free, but there's no guarantee she'll be able to find her way to Augsburg. Not in the dark with all this fog. These woods are dense, and the paths are not clearly signposted. It would come as no surprise if she were to find herself lost, or else at the mercy of wild animals. This forest is fair teeming with wolves. Did you know that?
Wolves?
Oh yes. This forest is just as much their territory as it is mine, and they often come out at night to hunt. Bandits aren't the only things fair ladies have to watch out for. But if your lady friend is resourceful, and luck is on her side, she should emerge from this trial unscathed. Let us hope that she'll be alright, shall we? Now, enough about Lady Henrika. She is no longer my captive, and as such is of little interest to me. I'd far rather speak to you.
To me?
Yes, indeed. I have designs on you, my loyal little serving girl. I do hope you'll make yourself useful during your stay.
Designs? Then you mean... Do you wish to drain me of my blood?
Do you want me to drain you of your blood? How very eager you are.
It's not that. Do not misunderstand. I wish only if you mean to kill me that you would do so quickly. I've grown sick of waiting.
Oh yes, that look in your eyes is delectable. It may be more so even than your blood. You're so very defiant, but what is this I spy? You appear to be shaking, my poor little Micah.
That's because of the cold.
And not because of your fright.
I was able to protect my dear friend. I have nothing to be afraid of now.
Then you care nothing for your own life.
I've never been afforded a life. You may take it if you wish. You wouldn't be the only one.
Ah, yes. That is the fate, or so I've heard, of being a servant. Oh, poor dear.
Oh, I kind of said that like... like, kind of rudely, but she actually meant it genuinely.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm afraid I can't comply with your request. For the moment, that is. I will drain your blood in due course, but I've no desire to do so now. The bandits I encountered earlier made for a more than satisfactory meal. I am so glutted I do not think I could drink another drop of blood.
Then, you mean to draw this farce out longer still?
I'll draw it out for as long as I wish until I'm sufficiently thirsty. There seems little sense in overindulging. I'm sure that your blood would taste sweeter than a bandit's, but that only makes it more imperative that I save you until I truly want you.
Not her blushing, she's into that. How would it feel when Magdalena brought her lips to her neck? We're so down bad already. Would it hurt?
She supposed she'd feel a pricking sensation, and then... No. Won't you come with me? You'll catch your death of cold staying inside this jury cell, and then you'll be of no use to anybody. If I am to enjoy you properly, I would prefer to do so while your body's still warm.
What? Are you... really letting me go?
In a manner of speaking, yes. Though I'll only be transporting you from one prison to another. As your hostess, I don't believe that these quarters are wholly appropriate for a long-term stay. Especially not for a fair maiden such as yourself. You'll be in my abode for several days yet, I fear, until I further need of you. Until then, I'd like you to live in some measure of comfort. How unexpected. I didn't know that you were so gracious. I can be. I have hidden depths, much like the forest that surrounds my humble abode. I do so hate to see you shiver so. And your skin is so pale, poor dear. You and I could almost be sisters. White skin may be fitting for us vampires, but it isn't so for maidens, not even the fairest in all the land. No, please follow me. I doubt you've any real wish to stay here languishing. Unless you mean to make a further martyr of yourself? No, If that is what you want from me, then I've no reason to refuse. How very biddable you are. The words which come from your mouth might be stubborn, but it seems you've experience when it comes to following orders. Of course I do. I'm a maid, like I said. Ah, yes, so you did. That would explain your civility. Part of me was hoping you might refuse, so that I might be bidden to carry you. But this is fine too. It spares me the effort. Shall we? Please lead the way. For a prisoner, you're awfully cheeky. Magdalena led Micah down a twisting hallway, packed full of cells identical to the one Micah and Henny had been imprisoned in. Micah tried not to peer into these cells as she passed them, but curiosity soon overcame her and she found her head swiveling. She feared, as she stared through the darkness, that she might encounter sights more horrific than she was capable of comprehending. Rusted torture instruments, perhaps, or dead bodies. But it was so very dark in the bowels of Magdalena's home that Micah could scarcely see anything. Not even the moonlight, which spilled intermittently through the barred windows, could fully illuminate the sprawling prison complex. This, Micah supposed, tearing her eyes away from one of the cells as she passed it, was probably a good thing. She'd witnessed enough horrors for one night. Magdalena eventually brought Micah to the foot of a staircase, which led up from her subterranean cells. Careful. These steps are steep, and slippery too. If you fall, you may break your neck. Had Micah been less nervous, she might have laughed to hear her jailer fuss over her cell. A broken neck didn't seem like so very cruel a fate when compared to Magdalena's designs upon her. Perhaps it would be quicker to die thus, rather than having her blood drained. Woke up to see this, but I'm still tired, so I'll watch the VOD tomorrow. Good night, BQCW. Been kinda lurking? Real. At the very least, it'd be a swifter demise than freezing in her prison cell. Micah felt little in the way of humor, however, as she took the chill banister beneath her right hand and began to climb. She could recognize the irony in Magdalena's warning, though only vaguely. Her mouth felt hewn into a permanent line, as though carved from stone, her brow furrowed. It seemed unlikely she'd ever smile again. The chill of the basement faded as Micah cleared the final step of the twisting staircase to emerge in a spacious hallway lined with arched windows. The hallway was not so very dissimilar in decor to her parents' home, though it was less ornate, the furnishings worn down by old age. It was apparent that Magdalena's home had once been noble, but it had clearly fallen to rot and ruin, its heyday long since past. The air in the ground floor smelt almost as rank as that in the dungeon, and every conceivable surface was heaped with inches of dust. There was so much dust, in fact, that Micah could feel it in the air when she inhaled. The dust irritated her eyes and nose and laid heavily, unpleasantly upon her tongue. Micah swallowed, hoping to void her mouth at the taste of decay, but in vain. The dust was so thick she sneezed, which prompted Magdalena to say, "Bless you." "Thank you." "I thought you did not care for God or his teachings?" "I don't, but I presume that you do. I thought that you might appreciate it." "I see. How very thoughtful of you." "I know! For a vampire, I'm unusually sensitive." Mute with fatigue, Micah continued to follow Magdalena to the end of the hall, wherein a wooden door was inlaid. Magdalena seized the brass handle and twisted it, then pushed it ajar. It stuck for a few moments as though unwilling to move, but soon shifted, creaking as it did so. When the door swung back, it was to reveal a vast, spacious room, with a ceiling so cavernous Micah had to crane her neck to see it. A large, ornate staircase was set in the center of the room, which rose to the floor above it, the banisters made of wrought iron. This, Micah supposed, must have been the entrance hall. It had clearly been designed to impress, for its vastness was almost dizzying. Magdalena's home, could it really be a castle, was larger even than Micah's, and vast enough to be unnerving. Trapped within this scene of spoilt luxury, Micah felt smaller than ever before, a tiny doll rather than a grown woman, rattling about in a playhouse. The entrance hall must have been fine once, but it showed clear signs of deterioration. The dust was so profuse that it made Micah's eyes water, and several of the stone steps which led upwards were cracked and chipped. A grand piano could be found in one corner of the room, but its lid was shut, and Micah doubted it had been played, if it still could be played, in decades. There was a chandelier in the entrance hall, hanging aloft from the high, high ceiling. But when Micah craned her neck upwards, dear me, she could see even in the dark that it was festooned with spider webs. The house might have been grand once, but it was not so now. It seemed a wonder, really, that it still stood, when it clearly was uncared for. Your servants don't seem to be working very hard. Perhaps you ought to see to hiring new staff? My mistress would never permit. This. Oh? Are you judging my home, Micah? I would never presume to be so rude. I just thought it might feel more homey, that's all, if it were less of a pile? You are quite right, of course, to judge. Please, judge away, to your heart's content. I've never been a fan of this place myself. Its scale is too grandiose even for my liking. My great-grandfather, it was he who had this place built, had more money than sense and absolutely no taste to back it up. The house has no need to be this large. But there was land enough for it, and money too. And when a man has land and money and means, he will often think, well, why not? Practicality matters little in the decisions of great men, and neither to my unending woe does aesthetic sense. I can believe that. My own father, my master, rather, half-filled my own residence with pointless baubles. They were all very expensive, but not particularly cohesive. The parlor looked like a museum once he was through with it. It hardly seemed like a place to sit and relax. I was too afraid to spend any measure of time in there in case I broke something. Then it seems we have something in common. I found this place dismal even when my family was alive, and we had a legion of maids back then to keep everything spick and span. They kept the dust and the cobwebs at bay, bless their hearts, but they couldn't combat the loneliness. Now, my family is dead, and all our maids along with them. I can hardly take on new hires, being what I am, so my home was rather left to go to ruin. I clean what I can, but there's so very much house to clean and only one of me. It's quite the overwhelming challenge. My attempts of cleaning have fallen quite by the wayside during the last half a century. I hope you can forgive my slovenliness. Oh, no, it's fine, I understand. You're too kind. There's switch there. Oh, listen to me prattle on. It is most inconsiderate of me, especially when you must be tired. Let us make haste to your room. Throat's feeling a bit tired. Oh. Sudden noise. There came, through the yawning gulf of the entrance hall, a sound not dissimilar to that Micah had heard in the dungeon. It was a scream. Or was it? Micah was unsure. The scream was fainter than the one she detected in the dungeon, and seemed to emit not from the ground under which the cells lay, but above her head. Was there another person concealed in Magdalena's abode? Somebody other than herself? Was it another captive kept separate from the rest? Was it Henny? Magdalena. Lena, please. Magdalena's quite the mouthful. I'd rather you use a nickname as you did with your mistress. I entered the stream because I saw the word lesbian in the title. I've been summoned. You're looking at him.
Welcome in, Bella.
Lena, then. What was that noise I just heard? What noise? You didn't hear it? It wasn't very loud, I'll grant you, but it was unmistakable. I swear it sounded just like a scream. A scream, Such sounds are not unheard of in my abode when I'm attending to a prisoner. But there's nobody here now except me and you. Nobody living, at least. Then it's not the imprisoned bandit. Certainly not. He will never make a peep again. I made sure of that with my own 2 hands. It would be hard for him to speak with half his throat torn out, you see. Oh. Oh, now, dear. Worry not. It was not your mistress who screamed thus, if that is what you are wondering. I am a woman of my word, and I promise I let her go. She is quite... well, she's not necessarily all right, but she is away from me, and there is the possibility that she might live to see another dawn. Then who screamed? What was that sound? It must have been your imagination. You have overexerted yourself after this night's events. Anybody would be exhausted in your situation. It didn't feel like a dream, though. No? I suppose it must have been the wind then. It is very draughty in here. Is that all? That's all it could have been. Unless you mean to suggest that the dead can speak. No, I wasn't suggesting that. When I heard judge before, my ears perked up. Good. I know it is expected for women to lose their minds at the drop of a hat, but I have grown quite sick of being regarded as the weaker sex. I'm pleased to see you're doing your level best not to let us down. Why, you haven't swooned even once, which is more than most men can say when I bring them here. It's really quite commendable. You might swoon, though, from a lack of sleep if we continue to tarry. Let us be off, or we shall never make it to our destination. Alright. We didn't get through as much as I was hoping, admittedly. Because I very much would like to... Oh, we can see them in the light now, actually. Wah! Pretty. God, this art style is so good. Sorry, I'm staring. Staring. Dear me. Yeah, my throat's feeling a bit tired and I'm kind of losing my tact. Just wanted to say your voice is absolutely beautiful. You're so talented in voice acting. Thank you so much. I do plan on absolutely finishing this game sometime soon, though. I'm very much in love with the premise, and this guy, welcome to the apprenticeship. Welcome. Please make sure to check the membership tab. But yes, I will be streaming this game again soon. Went to the bathroom when you're ending. Yes, I'm ending. I see the /LH. And my throat's feeling a bit tired and I don't want to overdo it. But Thank you everybody for sticking around. We will be playing this game again. Soon. I promise. Well, and with that everybody, thank you so much for coming. I will see you again soon with more Ace Attorney or more Cage of Roses. I'm not really sure which one yet.
It's your fault for leaving. I blame you, Rose.
And with that everybody, thank you so much for coming. I will see you again next time.